All right, I would like to welcome everybody back to the KevCAM night class. We've been kind of missing in action for the last month just because of SolidCAM World and Greg Payton traveling and myself traveling and Andrew traveling. So you have all three of us here tonight. So helping out with questions and stuff. Andrew from our sales team is with us. Andrew, are you there?
What's up, guys? You're in for a treat tonight.
And Andrew can only say that because he has no idea what we're covering tonight.
Yes, indeed. But you've got the dream team here, so I'll be ready to tell Kevin when you have a question and let him answer it because you don't want me answering it.
And then Greg Payton helping out with anything that I'm missing for you guys. So I don't see any new names in here, so we'll just kind of get the ball rolling. And like I said, coming back from a long break here, and this kind of brings me to my next thing here is if you guys do have ideas, send those over to me via email, and we'll get those implemented. Now, all the ones that are on the website right now are all of your guys' suggestions. So these are all been suggestions that have been submitted in. So keep them coming because, like I was just telling Greg and Andrew, after 4 years of doing the night class, I'm starting to get a little dry and running out of stuff to show you guys. So, but we'll definitely keep these going. Okay, so what we're covering tonight is more than anything how to get a better, smoother toolpath, especially for the older machines. Now, the real tough thing with this is I can't just tell you guys to do one thing and it's going to work perfect. So what we're finding out with a lot of these machines is some machines like line segments and point to point, and some machines run better using arc movements. A lot of the newer machines, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the newer machines are more proficient and faster using line segments versus arcs for computing the data. So,
Yes, that's correct.
okay. So what we're going to be covering tonight is not so much toolpath related, but it's going to be a lot of dependent on machine related. And I'm going to show, I'm not sure what customer it was that wanted to see all the different areas that they can fine tweak for 3D toolpath, but we're going to go through every single one for you guys, and then you guys will have to do just a little bit of testing on your side to figure out which one is good, or if we increase this number, does it decrease the amount of line of code, or does it decrease the tolerance and stuff like that. Some of these where we move over to like line segments, for instance, like a Haas with iMachining, we'll get some machines, the look ahead just isn't far enough, and so the machine will actually get a little jittery. So I'll show you guys how to accommodate that tonight and go through all the different fine tuning settings to get a smoother toolpath. So, okay, so the first one, what we're going to cover is the iMachining one. Now in iMachining, there is two currently, but three different areas where you guys can change the different toolpath for the G code per your machine. So if you guys go over to the miscellaneous parameters, we have fit arcs, which is 1, cut tolerance angle, which is 2, and coming real soon, there is, I have a picture of it. Let me just pull it up for you guys here. There is going to be a tolerance, and right now it's just in beta testing as we're trying to test it out on different customers' machine. But this one is going to be coming in SP3, if I remember Anthony saying right. So real soon for you guys. So what do all these do? So I'm minimize that there. So by turning on the fit arcs, what this will do is it will take the cutting tolerance that's used in each section of iMachining toolpath that fall between the specified tolerance. So what's saying here is if I open up this tolerance, I can actually reduce the amount of G code that's in the machine. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, I got that reverse. A small tolerance can greatly reduce the amount of G code that is being generated. So for those of you guys that are running a little bit older machines, you guys can come in here and move this cut tolerance down right here, and it will reduce the amount of G code. Now what's going to happen is it's going to turn it into from small little line segments into arcs. So this will, and like I said, this is very dependent on your machine. If you're running a very new machine, we really don't even need the fit arcs, and the machine's probably going to run faster than if we did use fit arcs, because we're just doing a whole bunch of line segments in there. So by the fit arcs, from my familiar, can't talk tonight, from my working on the machine, I would want to use fit arcs because we had not brand new machines, but we did have older machines. Greg, what are some of the new machines that really can chew through the point to point, or the
anything like a Makino style machine that has its own spline approximation where you can feed it points and it determines what the appropriate path to take is based off the tolerance of the machines and the settings that you have, would be a good example of something. It's typically anytime you're switching from a G1 move to a arc move like a G2 or G3, you are flipping a electronic switch there. So by keeping it in the G1, you're bypassing the need for flipping the switches so you can chew through code. The machine only has to worry about the movement changes as opposed to what type of motion it is. So that's where that would come into play.
Okay, perfect. Now I also know, like with some of the Herco machines, down here in the miscellaneous parameters area, you guys can also change some tolerancing. I know we were using a Herco, was it VMX 42 HSI or 42 HSI? And in there, you can actually set the different tolerancing in there. So it's not going exact point to point, but it's rounding as it's going through. So like what Greg was saying, when it has to make that switch over, it does more of a rounding in there. And that's just a Herco miscellaneous parameter that I can remember of right now. But now with this new beta one that we have in here, this will definitely get rid of any jerkiness, and especially if you guys, and this is kind of more geared, we see it more on the Haas machines, and especially if you guys don't have the high speed option that Haas offers. So with this new beta thing, Anthony did some testing here. So with the default tolerance, we can see over on the left hand side right here, there's a lot of point to point with small little arcs in there, but more and less just a whole lot of point to point. Now, when we move that new option right here from that beta option to 2thou, you can see our point to point and line segments are getting longer now. So we're getting more of an arc in here. Now, if we switch it over to a 10 degree, you'll see that we're even getting a better tool path yet right there. And then if we switch this was a typo, but it's 10 degree with a 4thou arc fit tolerance, you can see this outside one is just basically like a perfect arc going around. So on those older machines, that really does speed up your machine time and also have the accuracy there to go along with it. So I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything here. So there's our new beta tolerance.
The visualization where you have what it looks like 20-something node points on the picture on the left compared to the 4 node points on the picture on the right.
Yep.
Those would all represent lines of code. So for the old machines where memory is a concern or look ahead is a concern, reducing the amount of blocks that it has to chew through can be greatly beneficial for those types of machines.
And yeah, definitely. And also what it will do is shorten up that G code for you guys. So, doing a G2 move over this long arc here is going to be, one or two lines of code, where over here, I guess that's kind of what you were just saying, Greg. Over here, you got multiple lines of code just to get around that one arc. So, like I said, this is not, I wish I could say this is exactly what you guys can do for your machine, and this is what's going to make it so much better. But you guys are going to have to play a little bit with on the machine side and see how it affects your machine, because depending on what year your machine is, I mean, if we take a Haas VF2 SS from 2015 to 2017, there's a lot that has been changed in there. So these are just some of the settings that you guys can play with to really dial in your machine, and especially if you're running out of space and memory in there for you guys. Okay, so that is the iMachining one with the fit arcs that's going on there. So now what we're going to do is open up an HSM one here, and we go over here. So right here, if I go to my motion control and this approximation of arcs right here by lines. So this is going to be kind of set up for the machines that like more the newer style machines, to get line segments versus arcs. So what this will do is it will enable you to control the process of the arcs approximation at the operation level. The approximate arcs by lines checkbox will enable you to control the arcs in the G code. So if we turn this on, we're going to get arc segments versus line segments. So kind of like what we're looking at with that iMachining picture, as you're doing surfacing, it's going to try to force arcs in there versus just little tiny line segments going through there. So you definitely have...
I think you got that backwards, Kevin.
Oh,
that one's going to output lines.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Everything's all backwards. Sorry, guys. I'm a little rusty after being out of it for a month from doing the night class. So, yeah, you're right. Approximate arcs by lines. So, yeah, turning this on, we're going to get our lines. Turn this off, we're going to get our arcs in there. So if you're running a newer machine that can crunch through the code really quickly, like what Greg was saying, instead of having to make that switch from a G01 to a G02, G03, you guys can turn this on, and then you can set the tolerancing up. Like I said, this is another one that you guys will have to just kind of do a little test program on, and just to see which one will better suit the machine and the code for you guys. Now inside also is, if we go to our passes, and then right here, the fit arcs right here. So right now what it's doing is it's kind of smoothing out everything, trying to turn into arc line segments. Arc moves versus line segments. So you kind of see right here my geometry. If we go in with a microscope, you'll see it's all jagged kind of looking going through. And what the HSM module is going to do is it's going to smooth it out using the point reduction with the fit arcs. Now, if we turn this off, it's going to follow the geometry to the exact T. So we're going to have more line segments in there versus arc moves in there. So like I said, this one's going to be unchecking. This is going to be kind of for our newer machines, or a machine that likes the line segments versus the arcs. Does that kind of make sense for everybody? I don't even have the questions panel pulled out, but okay.
No questions so far.
Perfect. So the actual literature on this is SolidCAM enables you to optimize the toolpath by reducing the number of points. So by doing that, you will get a shorter G code as well, because it's just doing approximation versus following exact point to point. The arc also enables you to activate the fitting of arcs of the machine passes according to the specified tolerance value, which is right here. Or I'm sorry, this tolerance right here. So if I turn that off, we can do a tolerance. So it's going to do a plus, it's going to stay within, so this red line right here and down here is our tolerance. And you guys can move that around however you guys want to. Now, the nice thing is, once you guys figure out which one is the cat's meow for your machine, then you guys can save that out as a template. And I know we've covered this millions of times. So what you guys can do is have these already pre-set up for your HSM. So when you start a new one, all this will already be populated for you guys as well. Okay. So, yes. Now if we go over to an HSS, so in HSS, there's not a whole lot of control on there just because we are working off the surface NURB itself. So HSS, well, so if we go back to HSM, HSM is taking the part and making facets out of there based off of the facet tolerance that you guys set up in your target model, where HSS, and this might be a little bit of repeat, but HSS is actually going off of the surface NURB itself. So, like I said, there's not a whole lot we can do in there, but if we go to the toolpath parameters and click on modify, we can actually do the round corners. So if your machine is older machine and likes those arcs versus the line segments, we can do a round corners, and it will do a G01, or I'm sorry, a G02, and do a radius in there for you guys versus doing line segments coming to a complete stop and then coming down with the G01. So like I said, it's all based off of your guys' machine parameters as well. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything with the HSS. Am I missing anything, Greg? I think that's it for doing any arc approximation or anything like that.
Yeah, the round corners one is a new one for me. I didn't realize that that put in the GO2, GO3 moves.
Depending on the, yeah. Depending on the, I can't remember, depending on the post, it's supposed to do the put those G02 moves in there and G03s. Okay, now if we go to our last 3D operation here, we'll just do a turbo HSM. Now the turbo 3D HSM is fairly new to the software here. It's basically taking the HSM strategy and adding some cool new features in there, like the HSS, so the gouge protection, a lot of that good stuff in there for you guys. But so if we go to the passes and smoothing, we can also do the kind of the same thing as what we're looking at with the HSS. So we can either do a sharp corner in there for the machines that like to have just the line segments, or what we can do is we can do our rounded corners, and we can actually put a additional radius in there. So when you select the sharp corners, it will generate a sharp toolpath in the corners. When you do a round one, enables you to round out the inner corner for your machine. So now this option right here will not be available if you guys are doing pencil milling. So if we switch this over to pencil, go to passes, you'll see that we don't even have that option anymore. And just because pencil passes just does one based off of the physical geometry itself. So trying to think anything else. For everybody that's watching, is there any questions or anything like that I can, Greg and I can help address for right now for you guys? I know it's pretty vague just because it's all depending on what machine you guys are using, but I wanted to give you guys the information so you guys can go back to your machines and say, well, I was running a Imachining and it was stuttering a little bit, so now I know I can come in there and change it and play with that number, because a lot of people, including myself, this is, if I go back to our Imachining here, this option right here, to be honest with you, and I've been using SolidCAM since 2007. Imachining came out in 2000, late 2008, 2009. Never even touched this. Never even played with it. Didn't even know what it did. But we did have two customers ask kind of, what does all this do and how can I make my machine run just a little bit smoother if the look ahead isn't there? So there is where you guys can kind of change that. And like I said, look for in SP3 to have that additional option in there for you guys as well. So, Greg, am I missing anything?
No, I think that cover the options in the operations that you've gone over. Now, when it comes to what you were talking about in the approximate arcs by lines, that's not just relegated to the operations that were shown this evening. You can pretty much find that in the motion control page of any operation that you open up. If you do want nothing but G1 movements in those types of passes that support it, so like profile, pocket, anything like that, you should be able to find a approximate arcs by lines setting there. Right. But other than that, I think that pretty well covered it.
Yeah, I forgot about that because the guys that wrote in that wanted to see a class on this, they wanted to see it in 3D, so I had a mindset of 3D. But yeah, so like right now we have a profile operation open. Here's your approximate arcs by lines. So you guys can turn that on. If we add a pocket operation, go to our motion control. So like Greg was saying, it's definitely all going to be in your motion control or your miscellaneous parameters. This is where you guys will find a lot of this stuff, except for the 3D. And then in the 3D, it's going to be in your technology for like your HSM and all that stuff. So quiet crowd tonight, but that is all I have to show for you guys tonight. Now moving forward, what we're going to do is this one is going to kind of help you guys optimize your programming skills to get a little bit faster, different techniques to increase your programming skills. So we'll be going over that. And then July 9th, we'll be doing the chord sys versus polar. And then the 23rd is going to be kind of covering different tool paths, which one's better per part per se. So, all right, everyone. Well, I would like to thank everyone for joining on their Tuesday night here and sitting through us pretty much lecturing you guys, but hopefully you got something out of it. And going forward, if you guys do have questions with this, please get in contact with me or call our support line, and any one of us will be able to help you out with that. Like I said, do a little bit of testing on your side and get it fine-tuned, and then what you guys can do is make a template out of that, and you'll be set for going forward. So, All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your night, and we will talk to you guys next Tuesday. All right, guys. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.